好，再次跟大家问好。然后呢，今天早上的这一堂 QA 呢，会由 Tim 老师来亲自跟大家做回答。所以呢，如果你现在呢，就是还有朋友还没进来的，我们还有1分钟的时间，邀请他们呢一起来上线。那因为呢，这个菩萨戒呢，是我们这一次在上一次这个 ACI 7的课堂里面，觉得有很多非常感动的地方。然后大家也经历了很多天的这个打卡，每天都把它在生活当中去练习。那相信大家呢也有很多的问题，然后想要在这边提问，所以待会呢可以在聊天区把你的问题放上来。那如果很害羞的话，私讯我，我帮你贴上来。那你也可以直接打开麦克风来说。好，那开始之前呢，我想跟大家说一下，因为呢，现在呢是美国时间的傍晚时间。那其实老师呢，他待会呢结束后就要尽快的去准备行李，然后要出发去机场来准备来到台湾跟大家见面了。所以特别特别感谢老师，我觉得他对台湾除了有特别的缘分，另外呢，就是有特别的情感，所以他都会答应很多我任性的要求。那特别在这个时间来和大家见面，所以呢，希望大家直接打开你的镜头来和老师互动，然后来到线上。那我知道这是一个星期天的早上的时间，能够提早醒来，然后坐在这边很不容易，但是我们也很希望大家就是珍惜和老师的互动，然后一起打开镜头。OK，好，那接下来呢，我们就期待要进到这个 ACI 8，所以我们今天呢会准时1个小时的时间，然后请大家呢把握你的时间。接下来就用鲜花和掌声欢迎 Tim 老师。Tim 老师准备好了吗？好，如果你现在正进到这个会议室的话，请大家打开镜头。好，那如果你有问
Yeah,
题的话，现在
I'm
也可
here.
以放到聊天室。OK，好，OK，那我们就掌声鲜花欢迎 Tim 老师。
All right.
OK，
All
Good
right.
morning, teacher. Good evening. Good evening,
Hello,
teacher.
everyone. Hi. So Sharon, do you need to be moved out of the interpretation box, or is everyone just going to listen to you in the box? So we're not doing consecutive. You're in the box. Yes. Okay. All right. Cool. Hi, everyone. It's good to see all of you. I've been frantically packing all day because I leave tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. from here to go to the airport to see you. Um, so I'm just getting my house ready to go, and then this is a kind of nice like in between, like packing, answer some questions, have some dinner, and then go to bed, basically. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in a couple days. And yeah, so this is your time. You know, I don't have any special wisdom teachings to give. Like I didn't prepare anything, but it's kind of your time. So, ask your questions. You can just open up the your microphone and ask the question, and then Sharon will translate and I'll listen, and then we'll see where we go from there. Don't be shy. Yoga, you have a lot of questions. Why don't you start?
We have several questions collected.
Already? Oh, okay.
Start from that.
Yeah, so let's start with that, and then we'll move from there.
Okay, so I go for the first one here. 请问受菩萨戒后的戒体是物质面还是意识层面？那这个戒体是怎么形成的？接受菩萨戒和别解脱戒是哪一个是基础？然后一日戒跟菩萨戒有什么不同？哦，那这个是我们之前收集大家的问题，然后就先请老师回答这一题。
Mm. I think that was like 10 questions. That's not fair. Um, so in the Abhidharma, they talk about when you take a certain type of vow that there's some kind of physical change that happens to your body. It's not like you gain more weight or something like that, but they kind of call it like you almost get like a halo around you or something like that, right? That's what the Abhidharma says. And the Abhidharma is kind of the lowest school, foundational school, right? And people have this idea that as they go along, like you take these different vows, and then those different vows will how do I say this? Like somehow they're better than somehow bodhisattva vows are better than say like layman's vows or like the 1 day vow. Um, and it doesn't, sometimes it feels that way because we're always talking about, you know, taking those other vows or, oh, can't wait till you take Diamond Way and then get those vows, right? And it kind of doesn't, I mean, it seems that way, but it doesn't work that way. And I would say that, the foundation, those top 10 virtues or non-virtues, depending how you want to look at it, you know, those top 10 things to really get yourself moving, which are kind of the foundation of everything. Like those things don't go away when you start taking bodhisattva vows or diamond way vows, right? They actually become, there's actually in the diamond way vows, those top 10 vows, there's actually a vow to keep those even more strictly, to be even more careful with them, right? So what they say is like the Prakti Moksha vows, the freedom vows, the foundation, those vows don't they basically they're only with you for this lifetime, right? Like if you took them like, as a child or you took them as, the day before you died, right? They don't carry with you into the next life, right? It's almost like if you were a monk or a nun in this life, which is the, a Vinaya kind of vow, then you don't pop out as a monk or nun in the next life, right? You'd have to do that again. And so so those lower vows are actually called like the vows of individual freedom, and what that means is if you keep them well, they're powerful enough for you to reach a kind of personal freedom, right? Where you're able to stop your negativities, you're able to stop your mental afflictions, but only for yourself. Like you reach a kind of nirvana, right? But they're not enough to like reach the highest goals. All right. So what this, so the idea is then we start thinking about, well, how could I reach those higher goals? And so basically the first level is really more about how do I get free, right? Which is a really good goal, pretty high goal. And then when you start really looking around the world, right? Like if we look at each other right now, you know, if we're really honest, like everybody else is kind of suffering in the same way. Like I'm not the only one who suffers this way. Like yoga does, Prajna does, Nina does, right? Mermaid does. We all do. We all have the similar kind of suffering. And then when you realize that, you go, well, should I just do this for myself? And that's really the idea is like, should I do this for myself? And most people get to a place where they realize, I want to do this for others too. You see, and so that's where the bodhisattva vows come in. Like, how do you change your behavior? How do you change your activities so they're focused in a way that can serve other people as well to help them achieve the same kind of liberation that you're looking for, right? So it changes the motivation. Now, those vows, that's what they say anyway, those carry with you from lifetime to lifetime. So once you've taken them, you're stuck. You really can't really give them back. I don't know why you would want to, but so basically that they build upon each other, right? So you start with that vows of individual freedom, you have the bodhisattva vows, and then we go to the higher levels, like, even diamond way vows, right? Which help accelerate the process. So the one thing to remember is that, as I said, it's not like as you advance that the lower ones become less important. They actually become more important. And right now in the translator class, we have a special private class just for the translators and a few other people. And we're studying a text that has all of the monk's vows, the bodhisattva vows, and the diamond way vows together in one commentary. And so we're actually now studying the monk's vows from the point of view of diamond way vows, from the point of view of like the higher practices. And then you really start to see how all of it's mixed, how all of it fits together. The carefulness one needs at the Vinaya level applies through Diamond Way too. Like I was even joking one day, I was like, I don't think being a monk would be that bad or that hard now that I've studied it, most of it. Um, you know, but that's the kind of cool thing is you recognize that somebody, the Buddha, gave us a roadmap, and the roadmap is if you follow these seeds, right? Don't like I like to think of vows as not like you have to do this, right? It's more like these are the seeds to plant to reach your goals, both in this life and then beyond it, right? So when you're having difficulties or you're like, I really would like to make a major change, that's the main thing. Like, here are the seeds. The roadmap is there. Hold on one second. My cat was climbing on the chairs. Okay. So that's really how that's how I like to think about it is, the closer you get or the more you get, study this, you go, I want more vowels. I want more ways to plant seeds. Like tell me what to do, right? I can't tell how to do it all the time. So let me let's do it. Let's work it out, right? And so that's what they really are, It's guidelines on how to plant the best seeds. Having problems, just look through all those bodhisattva vows and, you know, Vinaya vows, Prakti Moksha vows, and be like, am I really doing this? Or am I doing something that's obviously creating the result that I have? And if you're honest, you'll find it. It doesn't, it's a practice in honesty, really. Like, and only you really can do it. Like no one else can really do it for you. And just how honest you want to be. And that's the practice, right? Sometimes we have blind spots, sometimes we aren't ready to like admit everything yet to ourselves. But that's the path, right? That's the way. If you believe in seeds, then here are the seeds that are going to help change your life. It's not more complicated than that, except changing your life is complicated. Doesn't have to be, but it oftentimes comes out that way. All right, next question.
Okay, next question. 好，有一个人提问：受了菩萨戒之后，反而会更频繁的发生不好的事情，心态上也很难短时间恢复，也会影响持续践行冥想和六十书。要怎么样让自己保持好的状态去面对这些困难？
That's a great question. So we're in the process now of preparing this big transmission, right? And I know there's a group in Taiwan, right? Uh-huh. A branch being organized, three being organized in Taiwan, right? And we're doing something that's really powerful, right? And today the registration opened up. So, we've had almost 2,000 people already register, maybe even more than that. That's the last time I checked. And so doing a really good deed oftentimes invites bad seeds to ripen. And you're pretty much going to be assured of it. There's kind of almost like this weird thing that happens like you really are making the efforts to change. You're really trying to be a better person. And then all of a sudden, all of these like obstacles and demons appear, and it's happening to us here, it's happening to me too. I've had some really good things, but some really like just like series of bad things over and over again. Including my house. I had a mini tornado hit my house the other day, ripped some of the roof off. And I mean, it's not that it's just the covering of the roof, not the whole roof, right? You know, the insurance company won't cover it, all these weird things. So like now I'm like, now I got to spend money that I didn't know I had to spend. And, um, difficult people, difficult circumstances, right? So it's a normal thing that when you start doing good things, it attracts the demons. And they're kind of like, do you want this? Do you really want to do this? Right. And really there's this thing that starts to happen, as you get deeper into the practice. Like in the beginning, it was all like there was a lot of hope, there was a lot of joy, lots of good bok choks, good seeds are going off, right? And your world is like getting better and you're happier and you're like, this is the answer, and then you have your first tragedy or your first difficulty, or you have the next one, or they just keep flowing sometimes. Sometimes you have a bad year, right? Or 2 years, and the question is, how do you keep a good view on it? How do you keep your motivation up? How do you keep yourself happy? Like many of you know, like, last year, I got really sick. Still don't know what happened, right? And I really tried hard, but it was difficult. Like it was difficult to be like, is this what I really want to do? Can I even do this? Right? I just didn't have the energy. I didn't have a lot of things. And then it changed, of course. You know, Sometimes I have better days, sometimes I have worse days, you know. But like how do you keep yourself going, right? That's the question. Like, how do you, in the face of those difficulties, how do you maintain faith, right? Because sometimes it doesn't feel that way, right? So, someone said something really cool today in the mixed nuts this morning, and it has stuck with me all day. Um, and Utpala said, my ability to serve somebody right now, or serving my teacher, or serving an event, a production, any of that, has nothing to do with what I'm doing right now. The service that I'm engaged in right now, and the motivation that I have, and the capacity that I have, is all coming from previous seeds. You're not doing anything in that moment. You're not serving. Your seeds from some previous action is opening up. And I really was like, well, that's really profound. And I started thinking about, like, when I was packing today, I'm like, am I packing my clothes? Am I packing my suitcase? Or is there a seed ripening right now from how I treated others in the past, of me being able, then ripening this way that I could make my suitcase, right? It doesn't mean that I'm not packing my suitcase, right? That's not what we're saying, right? But what we're saying is what's going on in the moment is a past seed, period. So what are you going to do now? Right? Like, how are you going to plant good seeds while packing your suitcase, or plant good seeds while you're serving somebody else? Or in the same thing, if you're having a really bad day or month or year, what are you going to do in that moment to plant better seeds or to continue on in a different way? Right? Because whatever is happening right now is coming from last week or 2 weeks ago or lifetimes ago, you know? Sorry. So whatever's happening right now is because of then, good, bad, or neutral, So that's what gets me through it, because I'm like, oh, well, this is just a bad seed ripening from something before. So what am I going to do different now? You know, I can't stop my body hurting. I can't stop the pain I have. That's true. But can I change my mind a little bit? Can I act a little bit different? Can I review my bodhisattva vows? You know, and so in that way, it gives us that's where the hope comes in because now I'm planting different seeds in the face of some kind of disaster. Okay. It's not, it doesn't necessarily feel that good, right? Because we want the problem to stop right now. And that's true, we do. Like, but if you've gone through enough of it, like, okay, so I have a roof problem. All right. It's going to cost me a lot of money. Okay. Well, what can I do different? I can think of it differently. I can act differently in it. I could get mad or I can just be like, yeah, all right, my roof, you see. And so, as you become more and more attuned to all of these, you don't get so upset about things when they go sideways or when your event doesn't go as planned, or someone acts like a jerk or someone yells at you. There's a million different things. You just think, wow, I must have planted that seed. What am I going to do now? How am I going to act differently today so I don't repeat this? And usually what happens is then, it takes you 5 days to realize that. And it's okay. Then you just change your behavior now. And once you realize it. Next question.
好，下一题，请宣静开麦来问一下。
老师好，我想请问一下，就是我们如果受了菩萨戒，是否需要吃素，或者是要避免饮酒？因为有时候我们在饮食里面，或者是我们在中医的药物里面会加入酒精作为煎煮的一个材料。谢谢老师。
Well, I would say there's actually two different questions there. Right. So the question of medicine, like some medicine, the carrier is a kind of alcohol, right? Especially some Chinese medicine, sometimes some tinctures, homeopathy, cough syrup, you know, sometimes there's a little bit of alcohol in it. And that's okay. Like that's in medicine, it's all right. No problem. But when we're asking the question of like, technically at the bodhisattva levels, the bodhisattva vows don't say anything about killing or anything about drinking alcohol. They don't. But the foundation vows do. Right? So I did. Hold on just 1 second here. Turn this off. So I'm having a little bit of internet problems today. I've been fighting my internet provider. So I'm sorry. I took my bodhisattva vows first. And then I took the layperson's refuge vows second, like a long time afterwards. And they basically, technically you're supposed to do it in a different order, but I did it in that order, right? So it wasn't until later that I gave up drinking, and then I gave up, mainly becoming a vegetarian after that. So of course, if you've taken layperson's vows, then that is one of the vows, right? For sure. Right. But if you haven't taken them yet, well then you didn't. Like, that's just how it is, So in that way um you're fine, in that sense. But as soon as you take them, then you have to observe it as well. I would personally, even if you haven't yet taken those vows, I would consider paying attention to what alcohol does to your body, right? I would pay attention to, and then the reasons why you're not supposed to drink alcohol, because it does make you stupider. It makes you significantly dumber, and you make a lot of mistakes and you can hurt a lot of people. But you don't have to do it if you just have bodhisattva vows. And then the question of vegetarianism, the vow says no killing a human or human fetus. It doesn't say no killing animals. It doesn't say no killing, cows or anything like that, right? And so I think becoming a vegetarian becomes a choice. And then a lot of people become vegetarian because they start thinking about the impact of killing other beings in general. Right. So that's kind of how I would think about it. Being a vegetarian is, you're trying to protect life in general. So, but if you're not ready for it or it doesn't make sense for you yet, like don't put a lot of pressure on yourself either. Like, you it's a personal choice. And I'm not someone who judges people whether they eat meat or not. Like that's, you can be a completely great Buddhist practitioner and still not be a vegetarian. A lot of people choose to be vegetarians, but you don't have to be. Although I might highly recommend it, for the karmic side of it, But it should be, when you're ready, like when you're ready to make those choices. And so for me, I didn't take refuge. Um, I didn't take those commitments until later because I wasn't ready yet. I wasn't ready to take that commitment to say, oh, hold on a second. I'm trying to open up space on my computer, by the way, just so I can. These are having some internet problems. But as I said, I didn't do it till much later because I wasn't ready. It was only after I meditated for a long time and I saw the effects that those things were having on my body and mind that I just kind of naturally stopped. So when I took the vow, it was no big deal. I stopped drinking alcohol like recreationally, just automatically, you know, because then you start really thinking about what it's doing to you. So that's my kind of general answer to that question. Next question.
好，下一题邀请敏敏，敏敏在吗？要不要开麦来提问？
有，老师早安。其实我大概20几岁的时候有进去那个汉传的佛教，就是那种很传统的那种，有受过菩萨戒。那当时候的师傅他没有像 ACI 7解释的那么清晰戒条，但是他会强调受戒的功德，比如说他就说 受了菩萨戒，就是会永不是菩提根。无论你以后会不会持续维持这个戒律，或是你去相信其他宗教，在你很困难的时候，就是菩萨都不会忘记你。呃，就是他可能就是受戒或是相信都比较年纪大的，他们都会比较强调在功德那方面来吸引。然后因为我那时候很年轻嘛，然后我后来对于他们的框架，对于宗教这些事情，我也没有很严格的去持戒，就放飞了。好，到后来我在这几年嫁来台湾之后，我就对 DCI 区很有兴趣。我觉得去宗教化很好啊，我又可以学到智慧，又没有那么多东西可能框着我。呃，但是最近因为 DW 有关系，我又开始走进去 ACI Seven。然后 ACI Seven 会让我对于戒律的认知是，好像完全不一样，完全不一样。然后我还有
咪咪
两课没听完，
咪咪
听，嘿，
咪咪，不好意思，请简短你的问题，因为
哦，
还有
好好
很多人想提问，你直接
好好。
提出你
然后
的问题，谢
我的
谢。
问题是说，刚刚同学有提到会爆坏种子这些事情嘛，我其实在这些年也犯了有些严重的戒律，我现在心里面还是会有点恐惧去受戒。我想请问老师，其实，呃，你觉得在去宗教化或是我们回到戒律的之间，其实会怎么样的选择呢？
Well, I think there's three things I would say. First, that, all seeds, vows, not vows, doesn't matter. All things that you think, say, and do are planting seeds, and you will have to see the result. Right. So, that's regardless of what you've done, you have to see the result. Now, that's why we also taught in ACI 7 a lot about the four powers. Like, how do you deactivate those seeds so they don't continue to grow, so they create a huge problem? Right. So, yeah, we're going to make mistakes. So, what are you going to do afterwards? Okay, I made that mistake. All right, four powers. Right? Do those four steps. Think about the emptiness of it. Commit not to doing it again, right? For a certain time period. Not in this order, but feel a little bit of intelligent regret, knowing that it's going to cause a result. And then do some opposite activity. Do an opposite good seed and rejoice in that. And then that gives you that changes the seed, that changes its power, and then you're doing something good on top of it, right? Third thing I would say is, you know, you can always renew those vows. It gives you there's always an opportunity, which we're going to get in ACI 8. Thank you, Angel. You have an opportunity to renew them or take them for the first time again. But my last advice, which I think is the most important, is that if we didn't need vows, if we didn't, how do I say it? If we weren't going to break the vows, we wouldn't need them in the first place. Right? We're practitioners. We're trying to learn. We're trying to change. So you're kind of in some ways, like it's kind of expected that you're not going to be perfect with it. And in diamond wave vows, good luck. Like it's very, very difficult. And there's there's a joke, but it's kind of funny that there's a special hell realm for those that break their diamond way vows. Like, it's very specific, right? It's kind of a joke. But you're gonna break them. Like, and don't worry. Like the whole idea is not to worry about it, but is to change your behavior. Right? When you recognize you're doing something sideways, you're like, wow, maybe I should have, that wasn't really a good seed. Then you start changing. Like that's how we change. Right? We do something sideways and you go, wow, that wasn't really nice. Then you fix it for the next time. You know, Try to think of it like a child learning to walk always falls down. And eventually they walk fine. But that's the same thing with a bodhisattva. Like you will fall down sometimes. It's okay. You know, and then you get stronger. Like just like Ray's little boy, right? It's probably almost walking now, right? We'll see him in class, right? He's gonna probably fall over a couple times. He'll hit his head. He'll cry. You know, that's what he's crying right now. Like that's what babies do, right? Yep. See, put him down. He's walking or something. You know, but he learns, right? And eventually he's fine. It's the same with a bodhisattva. Like we just think we're going to be perfect right away, which is not the case. So don't worry. You know, don't worry. You know, don't make it worse than it is. Don't be guilty. That's what I would say. Don't add guilt on top of it. Just notice and then make the change next time. Next question.
好，那请园林打开麦克风。
好，我有一个朋友，他就是在呃完全不知道状况底下，然后被带去参加了一贯道，然后他后来又有来学习了一些种子智慧，他很喜欢，但是呢，他又担心这样子是不是会造成什么样不好的一个影响，比如说违反他原本的那个宗教的呃戒律。或者是说对我们这边的，就是如果我们来参加这个菩萨戒的话，是不是也违反了我们的戒律呢？
Is that well, first of all, I don't have any idea what he did, so I can't comment on what commitments may have taken um in a different lineage. Um, but I'll say how Buddhists answer this. I'll give the Buddhist answer to the question. And Buddhism highly respects and honors all traditions and practices, all religions. And we believe that all paths lead to the highest goals. Hard to take my chick. Okay. So anyone can come to a Buddhist class, whether they grew up Christian or Hindu or Taoist or atheist or Muslim, the list goes on and on and on, right? Or a different Buddhist tradition. We believe that, it's open for everybody, all people, all walks of life. You don't have to be a certain somebody to come to an ACI class, right? and honestly, like, I think people should explore what makes most sense to you in your life. Maybe it is Taoism, maybe it is Christianity, maybe it's Buddhism. I don't know. Whatever's making you a better person, right? But I would be worried about something that I don't know. I don't want to make a judgment on that other tradition because I don't know. And I don't know what that person understands either. But I'll tell a story about from our group, okay? And then you can think about it. At the ACI, the Five Houses home office, we encourage students to go to all different classes with all different teachers. Like, who's your teacher, right? Is this working for you? Like, or maybe you want to explore someone else, right? Like, I might be sad, but if Angel's like, yeah, you know what, Tim, we've decided we want a different teacher to come to Taiwan, right? you know, and we're like, we don't like Tim anymore, or we want to try something different. Like, that's great. I know. But, you know, but if like, like if you, study with me and then you meet a different teacher, like from Five Houses, or you're like, you meet a Taoist teacher or something, I personally would say, and this is what we do at Five Houses, is like we say go. Like, if you meet the person who's your glove and it's a better teacher, that didn't make me a bad teacher. Like I was talking to my Monday, I think it was, maybe Tuesday, after all the letters went out, after we told people where they got their transmission, where they're going to go, what location they're going to be at. My first teacher, who I studied with for like 3 or 4 years, called me and he wants to host a branch in his house. He was like, "Oh, I want to have a branch, for my students, like 10 or 15 students." I was like, "That's great. Let's organize it." And we were talking for a while and we caught up and and I remembered the conversation that I had with him many, many years ago. Like, he's the one who pushed me to study with Geshe Michael originally. Like, he's the one that whispered in my ear and said, "Damn, go to Phoenix, go to Arizona." I'm like, okay, I guess. And I was really kind of trying to decide, like, should I move to Arizona or should I stay with my teacher, which was by New York City. And I remember talking to him one day, and I had the seeds happened. Like, okay, the seeds happened. Like, I'll tell you that story some other time. Maybe I'll tell it to you next week. And when I talked to him about it, he basically said, "No, you need to go to Arizona." And we didn't talk about it in the car last week, but I was thinking about it, and I was like, "Oh my God!" Like, I'm now like he saw the potential. He knew, right? And I'm not saying this as like, "Oh, Tim's awesome," but you know, I'm now the executive director of Five Houses. We have a huge worldwide team. We're doing a worldwide event for now 4,200 people in 140 locations at the same time. Okay. Not this, oh, everyone comes on Zoom, right? Like, that's like that's like last year's technology. This year's technology is everyone has to go in person. to a branch, and we have to organize all of it, right? And I was driving and I was so happy, and I was like, it made me cry too, because if he didn't do that and encourage me to go to a different teacher, even though he's a perfectly wonderful teacher and teaches me all the time, and he taught me some really beautiful things about Diamond Way as well on that phone call, So he's still a beautiful teacher. But he pushed me to somebody else. He let me go to somebody else. And if I had never gone to Arizona, I wouldn't be the executive director of 5 houses and running an event like this. I'd like to believe that somebody else would have been, right? But my life would be totally different. He let me expand, he let me grow, he gave me opportunity. That Lama Will gave me the opportunity to reach a potential, you know. So why on earth would I be upset if one of you went to a different teacher who was better for you? Right? Sure, we've had a good time so far, but maybe you found someone who works better. Because maybe that person can lead you down your potential in a way that I can't. Right? Just like my teacher did for me. He couldn't lead me down that potential. He couldn't give me that opportunity. But Geshe Michael did, right? So, so I get very suspicious of teachers who don't let students go somewhere else. Very, very suspicious. Because it feels to me like there's some kind of ego involved. Now, I don't know. I'm not talking about that other person. I have no idea who that other teacher is. Not judging them. Okay. Maybe they know what's best for the student, and they probably do. But me personally, as a teacher, like, if you meet your heart teacher and you thought it was me, or you were studying with me until you found your heart teacher, then you meet them, I'm going to give you the biggest high five. Right? And I'll tell you, hey, I'm always here if you need something. Now go. Like, go spread your wings, like, and so I think that's how I would think about it. And, and I think ACI 5 houses, we're open to everybody. Like, anyone can come. They come and then they go, because that's what's going to happen. Some people come, some people go. Some people get something that's, they get what they need, and then they move on. Like, this wasn't their path. Well, you don't know what their path is, so we don't need to judge them. We had a friend for a while, and then in the community, and then they went somewhere else. That's okay. Will we miss them? Yes. But they're choosing their own path. Like, it's not for us to judge someone else's path. So that's how I think about it. I don't know to answer your question directly. I have no idea who that student is. I have no idea who they studied with. I have no idea what is right or wrong for them. I just know that if they come to our classes, they're welcome. And if they leave and go somewhere else, that's great too. Maybe they got one cool thing that's going to help them spread their wings. That one person might have gotten something so wonderful that, in 10 years, their life changed because of that one class they came to. You never know. Next question.
下一位那个玲玲，请开麦。玲玲在吗？
在。
我在。
玲玲先来。
好， 我想要问老师说，格西老师有说一个，就是建议我们做冥想是做1个小时，然后因为之前有参加那个马来西亚的课程 BDW，那老师就有给我们作业，就是做那个冥想。但是我们现实当中，如果还有其他的目标的话，那我是要同时做，就是2个冥想吗？那这2个冥想要怎么去安排时间？这样子，谢谢。
So a couple of things. One is during ACI 8, I'm changing the meditations. And we're going to do the Bridge to the Diamond Way meditations in class this week. Okay. We're going to practice those because it's more important. First of all. Second of all, the idea of getting to an hour's worth of meditation a day takes time. And we'll talk about it this week, but we're going to talk about it in the sense of how do you set up your practice, right? So like for example, let me show you. When I got really sick I got sick in Malaysia. I don't know if you guys knew this. I had a 39.3-degree fever in Malaysia. Nobody knew. Oh my God, I think I got bit by a mosquito and I got some kind of tropical disease. Anyway, but during those 2 weeks, I didn't meditate very much, right? So I lost my meditation. So Geshe-la's advice is we start with only 10 minutes a day. And then every week you increase 1 minute a week. Right. So I'm on 15 minutes a day. That's where I am. Okay. So we just add 1 minute a day, 1 minute a week, excuse me. So then you start accustoming yourself to meditating longer and longer periods. Like I'm actually kind of itching to go faster. But the idea is that 15 minutes of good meditation is better than 1 hour of bad meditation. So if you can sit for 15 minutes and mainly stay on the object, it's so much better than an hour where you're just wandering and thinking about everything else. So I'm not sure what your question is about, like wanting to do 2 different types of meditations because you might want different things in life. I would say if you're doing the Geshe Michael's meditations, you'll get everything you want in life and more. So even if your goal is something else, the meditations we're going to do, I'm going to give you some new ones that we've learned over the last couple weeks here in Sedona, because we have a weekly meditation on Saturdays. If you do those meditations regularly, the seeds that you're planting are extraordinary. And I'll explain a little bit more about them later, but the main idea is that you're exploring what seeds brought you into this lifetime. And then secondly, you're looking at what patterns you have in your like deepest parts of your mind. It's because if you can change those patterns, you can change so many things about your life. All right. So if you have other goals, great. These meditations will help you get to those goals on top of, helping you see emptiness directly. Because if you can see emptiness directly, you can get anything you want. It doesn't matter, right? But even along the way, as you get closer, things will start clearing up for you. So that's my sales pitch for all of you to come next week. Next week, I mean like 2 days. Right? Today's Sunday, Tuesday night. Tuesday night, we have an open class in the evening, 7 to 9. Is that it? 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. You know, we're going to be going through ACI 8 this whole week, which is all about death in the realms of existence. And we're going to be talking about basically the idea of this course is now that we've learned Bodhisattva vows, what are we trying to create and what are we trying to avoid? So we have to know like what types of beings there are in the world that maybe we would want to become or not become in future lives. Right? So if we know all the different kinds of beings there are, then we'll learn about all the different kinds of seeds that create them. Then we learn what not to do or what to do. Okay. And then the second part, what I said is we're going to be focusing our meditation classes on Geshe Michael's, his preparation for the Diamond Way. Like, so those meditations are incredibly powerful and it's worth reviewing them. And we're going to give you some new ones as well. Ones that you don't have yet. Okay. So I know that a lot of you will come in person, but I also know that a lot of you may not be able to come in person. We will be online, of course. Right? Right, Angel? Of course, yes. We're going to be online as well. So, and we've scheduled the classes for the later afternoon and the evening so that for those of you that work, you can hopefully come to most of them. And this is the only week I have off between now and the transmission in October. So, the only week Geshe Michael is teaching some students with Stanley and Xiaoping at Dragon's Head. So he's busy with that. So this is the only week I have off. So I'm fitting it all in, right? And then just so you know, we haven't worked out the dates yet, but we're also going to do later in the year, we're going to do ACI 9 as well, end of the year. And Angel, you and I can talk about dates when I'm there next week, a couple days. So yeah, so there's my sales pitch. Like your question, thank you, allowed me to turn it into a sales pitch for ACI 8. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you. I miss all of you. I was thinking about you all the last couple days as I was planning the course and thinking about you. And I think we're going to have a wonderful week. I think it's going to be really, really great. So it's now 6:00. I have exactly 12 hours before I have to leave for the airport. So then I can come and arrive in Taiwan and try not to have jet lag. I'll do my best. So again, thank you all. Those are great questions. I feel like we covered some really deep points today. And yeah, if there's anything else you want to say, Angel, to promote for this week, I'd love to hear it. And I'll see you all very, very soon, a couple of days.
再次用鲜花掌声感谢 Tim 老师，然后这么精彩，然后和大家这个交心的一个分享，然后呢也感谢 Sharon 的翻译。那我想大家今天早上呢是一个很棒的一个早上的洗礼，然后大家也听到了，我觉得 Tim 老师对台湾的同学有特别多的爱。不但要在这一次的课程里面带来最新的这个内容，还有包含带领大家我只能说最终极最重要的冥想，然后我真的很希望大家一定要来，因为这些都是只有在现场可以听得到的，特别是老师飞了这么远的飞机来到现场。那另外一个就是大家也知道，其实老师现在每天有好多的会议，因为我也跟着好多的会议，然后呢，在这个准备4000多人10月份这个最重要的 那我也知道很多人现在已经报名了这个传承。刚刚看了一个数字，大概现在目前台湾有80人已经登记要来参加10月份的传承。那如果你想要也知道更多讯息，ACI 8也是一个很棒的准备。可是我想要特别感谢老师，因为他没有把这个时间拿来做自己休息的时间，然后给到了台湾，然后还需要在这个对抗这个这叫什么时差的情况底下来跟大家做 ACI 8教学。那特别 ACI 8是一个很特别的课程，因为在我们所有的课程里面，或者是大家平时接触到的，很少直接谈到死亡。那我觉得这个议题既然是我们每个人都会遇到的，就邀请大家一定要来课程当中听听Tim老师是如何来跟大家做分享。那通常那也还有就是这个星期我们也为大家准备了很多很丰富的内容，所以请大家一定要来。那Tim老师曾经讲过一句话，就是不论任何人想要走进这个课堂里，如果你有困难，我们在金钱方面的困难，我们还是非常欢迎大家。所以不论是各种困难，没办法直接来到现场，要在线上参加，或者是呢来到现场，但是经费不够，我们都欢迎你一起来。那最后呢，就是很期待在这个下礼拜2的公开讲座，然后大家可以呢直接来到现场。然后如果你在 ACI 7已经完成作业小考的，你也会在当天拿到Tim老师亲笔签名的这个证书，然后以及我们之前有一个打卡的礼物。那非常欢迎大家，然后带着家人朋友，如果你觉得这个议题会对他们有所帮助，请在下周2我们来到现场和Tim老师学习。那也欢迎大家来参加整个课堂，然后以及呢我们最后8月23号这一天也欢迎大家来现场观礼，就是菩萨戒的部分。我们这次也有很多的新同学也会来参加我们这次菩萨戒的受戒仪式。好，那接下来的时间呢因为Tim老师要准备行李打包，然后就要来到台湾和大家见面，所以呢就祝福老师的旅途愉快。那大家呢也可以打开麦克风和老师说说话，然后祝福他，也可以说想念他，我们都很想念他。然后再次感谢老师承诺一直来到台湾，谢谢你们，谢谢你的爱，我们都有收到，然后我们也很爱你，希望之后要一直来。好，那大家可以打开麦克风跟老师祝福 say 拜拜，也可以用英文中文都可以。
老师一路顺风，我
We
们很
love
爱你。
you.
See you
Thank you,
soon.
teacher. See you later.
Love you, Tim. Thank you.
好，
See
我
you
们下
谢
周
谢老
见。
师，
soon.
谢谢老师，
Thank
谢
you.
谢老师。
好，谢谢大家。那我们就今天到这里，我们下周见。记得带多点人来啊，把教室坐满。OK, thank you, teacher. Safe flight. See you. 好，大家拜拜。老师丢了一个图，
Thank you, everyone. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.
拜拜。谢谢 Sharon， 谢谢 Sharon。好，大家拜拜喽，拜
Yeah,
拜。
thank you, Sharon, for translating.
Sharon.
谢谢 Angel，谢谢。
谢谢，拜拜。
Angel.